Hello, beautiful friends and book lovers. I hope that you are all doing well. Today I am coming at you with another non-spoiler review and book chat for those of us who have read for Karen Slaughter's 20th book and her most recent book, The Silent Wife. I am so grateful and so excited. I did get this as an ARC from William Morrow Publishing, so thank you so much. I was really anticipating reading this, and I had no idea it was Karen's 20th book, so congratulations to her. That is honestly such an amazing accomplishment. So for those who do not know, Karen Slaughter is the author of the Will Trent book series, along with many other crime and murder mystery novels. That is definitely what I would categorize this book. It is heavy on the crime, but also they're trying to find out a little bit more about a chain of murders that have been happening. So the premise of The Silent Wife is there is a team of police officers and detectives and just other crime professionals. And these professionals are trying to solve a current strain of murders that has been happening, but also is related to other murders that have been happening as far as 8 years ago from when the current ones have been taking place. So Will Trent is a character in this book, and this is part of the Will Trent series. So I did not know that, but after I read this book, I did some research because this book had a lot of characters, which in the beginning was a little hard for me to kind of keep them all separate, and I would get confused at points because I'm trying to follow along, like, who's the detective, who's the coroner, who's the person that used to be a detective but is now a coroner, and stuff like that. So, but once my feet were wet when I was reading this, I got the hang of it. But this is part of the Will Trent series. However, I haven't read any of the Will Trent books yet, and I was able to follow along with ease once all the characters were introduced, and, I flipped back and forth a little bit to answer any questions that I had for myself. The book starts off with a college girl went out for a run and she was found dead. And when the team starts to look at her body and analyze the crime scene, they realize that she was also paralyzed. So a lot of people think, well, maybe that happened from her fall, but she also has this pretty big gash on her head. And a couple of the team members are like, you know what? Something just feels really, really off about this. So later, the team starts to analyze the deaths that have been happening recently, and then there's some sort of connection with deaths that have happened years ago. So the team starts to investigate what in the world is going on, what are the connections with these girls, and they do start to find out that there are odd connections and similarities in all of these girls' personal lives, and some instances that happened before all of the girls were found dead. So as the team starts to look at these similarities, they're making connections, and the book just really takes off from there. I personally started to speculate who I thought the killer was, and I ended up being right about like halfway through the book, but I don't know if I just got lucky or what, but I was focused on a couple of details as I was reading, and the details, my hunch was correct. Maybe instead of an elementary school teacher, I should have been, I don't know, an investigator. Who knows? I'm just kidding. I'm fine reading all of this stuff, but in real life, I can't watch like any Law and Order shows or anything like that because I get grossed out so easily. But for books, I don't, which is really strange. Anyways, off my soapbox, I figured out who the character was, or who the killer was, like halfway through. But once I started speculating who I thought he or she was, the book really picked up for me then, because I was like, I need to know if I'm right. So now I'm going to tell you guys what I rated the book on Goodreads and both my personal rating. If you don't know, you can give a book up to 5 stars on Goodreads. So I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5, which tends to be what I normally give books. And then for a personal rating, sorry, I have my notes on my lap, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, and here's why. I've done this a little bit in the beginning of the book, but it was kind of hard for me to follow the characters in the book and who was what and who used to be a detective but wasn't anymore and who used to work with who. And I feel like if I read the other Will Trent books or some other books from Karen, I probably would have been able to follow this with more ease, but it wasn't terribly exhausting to put those puzzle pieces together. And I also appreciated that while this book is, crime centered and it's a thriller and you're trying to figure out who the killer is, I did appreciate that there's like a little bit of, you're following like some relationships and some romance, which I often do not have in the same book. It's either like completely thriller or, like a little love romance novel. Like I rarely see them blended together in a nice way. And I felt like that definitely was accomplished in The Silent Wife. And like I hinted at, Karen Slaughter is definitely not shy when it comes to the gritty, gory scenes, graphic scenes that she writes about. And I appreciate that because, like I said, oddly enough, it freaks me out in TV shows and movies, but books, I'm all for it. So I think that she really hit the nail on the head with that aspect of the story. If you're new to my channel, I always do the non-spoiler part review, which you just listened to, and then I give my ratings, and then I go ahead and jump into a book chat for those of us who have read, so we can talk about the ending and our thoughts and see if we had any similar thoughts. So if you're new to my channel, I would love if you could hit that subscribe button below and that post notification bell so you are notified every time I post a new review and book related video. Okay, so getting to the book chat part of the book for those of us who have read, again, going forward, this contains spoilers. You guys, I just had a feeling that the killer was Dan Brock. I think his first name was Dan. I know for sure last name is Brock. Because my first inkling was at the very first crime scene, when they're looking at this poor girl's body, he's crying. And I know that he was crying because I think he had recently just like lost his father, I want to say. But my first thought was like, there is a time and a place for everything. And that just seemed off to me. I'm like, they just found this poor girl. Everyone's frazzled, but then he's crying and then says it's because he recently buried his dad. That was my first clue that I was like, something is off with this guy. The end of the story, when Sarah's sitting in Brock's office with him and like everyone knows that he's the killer, I was so anxious while reading that because I was like, who is he gonna pull a gun out from under his desk? Is it gonna be, is he holding it? Like, what's going on? And that part was just like, I was, biting my nails reading that part. But also when Sarah was looking at the autopsy and they found like the latex or whatever in one of the dead woman's like mouths, I was so grossed out. I was like, this is disgusting. And that's what I meant when I said Karen Slaughter does not hold back when she does details, when she gives the reader details and stuff like that, because I was like, this is super gross. But yeah, I thought that it wrapped up really nicely. And I was like, oh, when he injected himself with whatever it was that ended up killing himself, I was like, oh my gosh, of course, he kills all these women and then, has to do that to himself. And now, as always, my friends, thank you so much for watching, and please leave in the comments below what you thought about this book, because my favorite thing to do is chat with you guys. Also, if we are not friends on Instagram, please go ahead and find me on there. It's super simple, just at Heather's Book Review, and I would love to chat with you and see what you're reading. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, you guys.